establish citizen volunteers who help deliver the education to make homes, senior, elder fall victims safe, those types of things. That kind of a program, I think, would be totally appropriate. In fact, a good idea to pursue. But in terms of providing them as first responders, first, volunteers are not free, despite how it's perceived. Secondly, the training burden is overly burdensome for most folks. And C, specifically dealing with the circumstances that you've lined out, if you're talking about a 55 and older volunteer response force, their physical ability to do that, I'm letting my bias out here, but I fall in that group, so I feel safe to say it, that their physical abilities are diminished compared to the 25-year-old, which is the target age for volunteers.
No, I wasn't talking about volunteer fire department. I was talking about volunteer EMS.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? We're really running short on time.
I just have a quick one. What did you find was the most significant difference between this study and the last one you did?
This one was a deep dive. The other one was broad. So the other study was an evaluation of your system and opportunities to find creative solutions to response. In this particular case, it's a much deeper dive that quantifies specifically what your gaps are, not that you are having problems, but how specifically are you having the problem? How short are you on your firefighter staffing levels? How short are you on your ability to deliver service in the time frame that's been established, without regard to whether you've got the right numbers of people or not?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Any other last questions?
Thank you for that very detailed analysis and report. Provided a lot of information. I have a lot of questions. We don't have enough time, but I was curious that you said that you were not able to get any data from the PD on call answer time. Is that because I don't have an ability to track the time frame from when the 911 call rings in and somebody actually answers it? Is that something lacking in our data retrieval?
I don't believe that's the case, but I can't say for sure. I've made the request a couple of different times for that information. It was promised, but it just was never received. So I don't think it's a lack of capability.
Okay. And curious if you have any experience or recommendation about how much what I would call a public assist call for helping somebody that's fallen, helping them back into bed. Not a true 911 call, but I know that those are a lot. There's a high percentage of those calls that are represented, and a high percentage of those are at care facilities. Do you have any experience in managing that through perhaps local ordinance or something more substantial than just education?
I'll comment, and you want to add on. Many communities that have these kinds of facilities, it's a need for education. They need to understand how they're impacting the system. In an organization I'm familiar with, another fire department, those nursing homes and care facilities managers were pulled together, and a presentation was given by the fire department on the impacts of their call volume. They had no idea that they were impacting the fire department as significantly as they were. They committed to policing themselves and trying to address the non-emergency calls. That didn't last very long. After got this agency got a blip, an improvement, and then it went back to baseline. This fire department actually indicated to these care facilities, we are not going to respond to your calls that are non-emergent. The private ambulance company is happy to do that and happy to charge you for that. The unfortunate thing is that the patient gets charged, not the facility. And so if you're dealing with a facility that's callous, it's a pure business decision, and they don't care as long as they've offloaded the liability. That's my experience.
Need to recognize too that there's different levels of skilled care at these facilities. Adult foster homes typically have no medically trained staff. Nursing homes certainly has skilled care. Rehabilitation centers will have RNs and doctors on call and available. So it really, a lot of the discussion is at what skill level of facility are we talking about, and what kinds of responses are they individually creating for us. Where it's a highly skilled facility, there ought not be a reason to call for any sort of non-emergency event. That ought to be on the responsibility of the folks collecting the money from the resident. Some communities that I'm aware of have had to deal with their EMS authority to get permission not to respond to a 911 call. I'm not sure that would be the case here. Another community I worked with decided that we're just going to keep doing it, but we're going to charge a fee to the facility for the response through a bed tax or a bed assessment, which is another option. You know, if you can't beat them, join them and charge them. So there are options other than just education and encouragement.
I appreciate that, because I've heard from more than one source that there are conscious decisions being made by such facilities that they will continue to call for fire department assistance on those kinds of situations to avoid workers' comp issues from back injuries to their staff. And so they transfer that accountability to the fire department, which obviously impacts. So clearly education has to be the first step. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wish we had 2 more hours to talk about this, because there's still a lot to talk about. But again, thank you for coming out, and thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's take 5 minutes, and then we'll come back for our regular session.